Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone is having a great day. Today I'm going to talk about the Rake by Mary Jo Putney. Now, this is actually book number 2 in the series, and I have not read the first book, and I think this book can be read as a standalone. However, this book did make me wonder about the previous book in the series, and honestly, I usually like reading my series in order, so I would probably recommend it with this book as well because I'm not sure, but I think we might get a bit more background into the story in the previous book. Now, the characters here are Reggie and Alys. Let's start with Reggie. He is known as the despair of the Davenports. He is 37, close to turn 38, and he's basically wasting his life away. He is drinking heavily, he's gambling, he's dealing with women. That's all he does. When he was a child, his whole family died, his parents and his siblings, and his uncle took him away, and he was going to be the heir to the earldom. And he grew up thinking he was going to be an heir, but his uncle pretty much despised him his whole life. He was very emotionally abused and he didn't know any love, and he spent his childhood and teenage years trying to appease to his uncle, trying to earn his uncle's love, trying to prove himself. And then his uncle's true heir suddenly appears, and Reggie is not going to be the Earl anymore. Now he's just a nobody. And since then, he's just basically wasting his life away, gambling, drinking. Now, his drinking problem is a big part of the book. He is actually an alcoholic. And this is something I will touch base on a bit later, because let's talk about Alys. Alys is 30, almost 31. She actually shares her birthday with Reggie, which is an interesting coincidence. She is the steward of Strickland. Strickland is the estate where Reggie grew up, where he was born to, that his parents owned. Now Strickland is owned by the Earl, and the new Earl actually gave Strickland back to Reggie, so Reggie is moving back, and Alys is the steward. She made Strickland prosperous. She's had huge success. She's a very independent woman. She built her career. She's very much respected. She is single, and she actually carries a big secret about her past. Now, spoiler alert. She is the only heir to a duke, the most influential duke in England. She ran away from her house, I believe 12 years ago, when her fiance didn't stand up for her. So what happened? She was engaged, she was in love, and then she overheard a conversation between her fiance and the fiance's friend, and the friend was like, "Why are you even marrying that girl? She's so unattractive, she's too tall, too manly." And the fiance is like, "Well, for money." And she's heartbroken. She refuses to marry the man any longer, and she runs away, and she builds up a new life for herself. One thing I really disliked about this book is that Alys has a very low self-esteem, and this all came pretty much from that single incident with her fiance. She believes herself freakishly tall, and she's 5'9", so it is tall for a woman, especially back in those days, but that is not freakishly tall. And at the end of the day, Reggie is still taller than her, and for whatever reason, she considers herself manly looking and just not attractive, when in reality, for example, Reggie considers herself extremely attractive. And it's such an interesting comparison between, such an interesting contrast, I guess, between what Alys perceives herself to be and what she thinks Reggie thinks about her, and what Reggie actually thinks about her. Because, for example, Alys is like, "Well, he probably finds me unattractive because I'm just so freaking tall and so manly." And Reggie, at the same time, Reggie is like, "She is amazingly beautiful. She has long legs. She has such a feminine body. Reggie is completely taken by her. She doesn't see that. And those self-esteem issues, I really didn't like it. It was a bit too much for me. Now, what I did like about the book is how the relationship between Alys and Reggie is progressing. When they first meet, they're pretty much, I guess, kind of like enemies. Because Alys, she's a steward, but she's also a woman, and women are not really supposed to be stewards, so she's expecting Reggie to fire her, and she kind of feels negative about him from the start because she assumes he's going to, first of all, fire her, and if he doesn't fire her, he's just going to think she's doing a bad job, he's going to criticize her, blah blah blah, all of that. So actually throughout the book, Alys does a lot of assumptions, which is kind of annoying. Now Reggie, right from the start, he finds Alys extremely attractive, and he's like, well, I cannot ruin her, I better stay away from her. However, they do have to work together, and throughout the book, they have many deep conversations. They actually get to know each other, and we see their relationship progressing from enemies, kind of enemies, to friends. And then we also see the romantic feelings starting to develop. Of course, the physical attraction was there from the start on both sides, but then there is romantic love developing slowly over time, and we readers get to witness that, and that was quite interesting. Because in this story, their love actually makes sense because we get to see that love develop and grow. Now, one big issue that Reggie struggles with is, of course, his alcohol addiction, and he decides to overcome it. Because he learns that his father was an alcoholic and it almost ruined his parents' marriage. And he doesn't want that to happen to him. So he tries to quit alcohol, and he really struggles with that. He relapses a couple times, and we get to watch that. We get to watch his thoughts. He doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't think he can do it. It's the hardest thing he's ever had to do. He really struggles, and he doesn't really have anyone supporting him except Alys. Alys is always there to help him and to support him. And she feels like he really needs her there. Now, the demons Alys is struggling with is, first of all, her self-esteem, which is interesting because at the end of the book, she gets to meet her ex-fiancé, and he actually confesses that he was very much in love with her and he found her very attractive. And the reason he didn't stand up to her in the conversation with his friend is because he was young and he was just stupid, and it was kind of embarrassing to him to admit that he was in love because, young man trying to be all cool, trying to pretend like they don't care. So he was just embarrassed to admit his love, and he was like, I'm just marrying her for money. So when he confessed that to Alys, it's just so huge for her to realize that her entire life, the past 12 years of having this struggle with self-esteem, it was all for nothing. It was all for no reason, because she actually is attractive and men actually find her attractive. A big part of the plot is, of course, Alys's hidden past, her hidden identity, the fact that she's the heiress to the Duke. And Reggie actually doesn't know who she truly is for most of the book. And when he finds out, and she knows that Alys misses her father, but she thinks her father is too proud to reach out and reconnect, Reggie actually takes it on himself to make sure the two get connected again. And he travels all the way to the Duke's house, and he tells them about his daughter, what successes she has made, what an amazing woman she has become. And he basically gets them two together, but that also means that he has to let Alys go. And at that point, he knows he loves her, but he's also like, well, she's the heiress to the dukedom. I am an unworthy alcoholic. I have to let her go. I don't deserve her. And he actually pushes her away. And she actually goes. And this was a very selfless act on Reggie's part. Except it really shatters him to do that. And now he doesn't have anyone supporting him on his attempt trying to quit alcohol. So he struggles quite a bit without Alys. Alys, on the other hand, she misses Reggie, she loves him, she wants to be with him, and then she's suddenly like, well, who's gonna be there for him when he's trying to give up alcohol for good. And she goes back. And then they get their happy ending. Now, this book is extremely slow burn book. A bit too much slow burn for me. However, what I really enjoyed is, first of all, the complexity of the plot. It had some turns that I didn't expect. The book was quite engaging and interesting to read, and I also found Reggie to be a very emotionally mature character. He recognizes his flaws and he actually wants to work on them, and we actually see him try, especially his addiction to alcohol, which is quite a complex issue. We see him genuinely wanting to overcome that, and we see him struggle in trying to overcome that. I gave this book 4 stars, but I do believe it is a very well written book. I definitely enjoyed it. It was interesting to see how the plot developed, how the characters developed throughout the book. Have you read The Rake? What did you think about it? If you haven't read it yet, I would suggest starting with the first book in the series before you progress on to the second one. If you read the first book, let me know what you thought about that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and make sure to subscribe if you enjoy historical romance.